Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we're talking about Bach's Goldberg variations played on piano by Wilhelm Kempff, a recording that doesn't get a lot of attention these days, and actually didn't get a lot of attention back in the day either, because it was considered as something of an anachronism, even when it came out. Kempff treats the piece as piano music, just plain normal piano music, and he uses the full resources of the piano in order to make it sound pianistic. That is, the sustaining pedal, not to a grotesque degree. He had far too much taste and cultivation to be vulgar about his pedaling. The music never swims in pedal, as Poulenc used to say, baignant de pédale, swimming in pedal. No, but to create gorgeous romantic washes of sound now and again. Why not? To give you a little romantic thrill. He takes first half repeats in the variations, but not second half repeats. The whole piece has an amazingly organic flow to it. I mean, a real overarching feeling of tension and release, and it's really quite an extraordinary performance. He also does not ornament the lines. He plays it sort of as Bach wrote it, basically, and he doesn't add stuff. And, these days, of course, that's you consider to be just, the epitome of unidiomatic performance, because, of course, Bach demanded ornaments. Actually, Bach didn't so much demand ornaments. One of the criticisms of Bach's music was that it didn't leave any room for extra ornaments from the performer because he wrote everything down. And so a lot of the Goldberg variations is written down. That doesn't mean you can't add ornaments if you want to play with a few of them. You can, but you don't have to. You really don't have to. I mean, let's face it. If you have an amazing German chocolate cake, why does it need sprinkles on top? It really doesn't. One of the things about any kind of sort of musical academicism or technique is that once you learn how to do it, you feel obliged to use it. Sometimes too much, sometimes all the time. But the whole point of ornamenting is that it's optional. It was optional in Bach's day. If you read, C.P.E. Bach's fabulous essay at the beginning of his sonatas with varied reprises, reprises. He says there are some performers who like to ornament and some performers who don't, and who just play what's literally there. And Bach kind of prefers the person who's literally plays what's literally there, actually, rather than the guy who goes nuts ornamenting. So these are aesthetic issues. But the fact is, ornamentation is decoration. And you can either decorate or not, but it doesn't change the fundamental aspect of what the music is. It's bare bones, basic structure and melody and harmony and all of that stuff. And the interesting thing about Bach, actually, is that this whole, business with, proper Baroque technique is a little bit hypocritical as it applies to Bach, because one of the linchpins of the deification of Bach, the amazingness of Bach, the profound, transmogrified spiritual essence of Bach, is that his music is such essential, fundamental music that it's indestructible. It is so rigorously worked out, so carefully plotted in every detail, so indestructible. You could play it right side up, upside down, underwater, in outer space. It's not going to make any difference. You can take any instrument can play anything. Bach expected everybody to be able to do everything equally well, every instrument to be able to play everything equally well. The music is just there. It's a monolithic thing that can't really be altered in its fundamental essence, because the musical facts that Bach constructs it out of are simply just so strong and so indisputably effective. So to talk about Bach performance as a function of decoration and style, and when all the notes are the same notes, and you hear them the way Bach wrote them, it's a little bit odd, isn't it? Don't you think you get what I'm talking about here? So anyway, Kempff made a glorious recording of the Goldberg Variations, a wonderful, warm, enjoyable, humane performance with plenty of virtuosity. I mean, the 14th variation is really exciting, but sounds like a piano piece, not like one of those spindly harpsichord things with the mechanical. He never sounds mechanical. Never at all. The 25th variation, the great adagio, the great slow variation, is romantic. It's terribly sad and profound, but warm, and there's nothing alienating about it. It's a tremendous performance. I know I'm not going into detail like I ordinarily, or more detail like I ordinarily would, talking about the individual variations, the way he handles the canons and the way he handles, all this stuff and whatnot. But, the point I'm trying to make is that it's a Goldberg Variations. It's really like no other version, because it has a feeling, and I'm being very vaporous, I know, but I just try and explain why it's so special. It has a feeling of context. It fits within the grand tradition of European, not even specifically German, European keyboard music that is expressive of the human condition somehow. I mean, when you hear Kempff's Goldberg Variations, it's not such a huge jump to Beethoven's piano music and his variation sets, or even his sonatas, because you recognize the same kind of emotional response at work in both pieces. And that's an exceptional achievement. It really, really is. I think it's I came back to it by accident. Let me put it to you this way. Because we were talking about, Yun-Chan Lim's recent Goldberg Variations on piano. And so I was listening to other piano versions, and I wanted to go outside the box and try some, versions that, I hadn't paid attention to in a long time, and that hadn't gotten that much play or attention for piano. And I wanted to get past Glenn Gould and all the usual culprits, and Murray Pariah, who was sort of the modern reference and whatnot. And so I plonked that on, and it just held me absolutely spellbound for its entire length. And I wanted to talk to you about it for that reason. It is a great performance, one of the greatest recordings ever, not just because it's a realization of the Goldberg Variations, but because of its personality, its individuality. It achieves, paradoxically, its universality of feeling as a result of its individuality, of Kempff's particular approach to the music, of its rootedness in the entire, it seems to me, keyboard tradition, which Kempff really celebrated throughout his life. So there it is. That's just my thoughts on the performance, and why I think it's one of the greatest recordings ever. I'd be interested to get your opinions if you get a chance to listen to it. It's downloadable. It's available on vinyl. The CD seems to have vanished, but you can find it in the big Kempff box, which I'm going to be talking about soon because it's still available. I didn't even know that. In fact, I didn't even know it existed for a while. I was kind of shocked, but there it is. I have it. So we'll be doing a big Kempff thing also in the not too distant future once I get done working my way through 80 or so CDs. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.